out of state. And guess what? He is still looking into it. For a lively debate on whether or not Governor Quinn is taking a very big risk, we turn to Democratic strategist Ryan Clayton, Republican strategist Brad Blakeman. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Thanks. Ryan, I'm going to start with you because the governor says anybody who's been on strike and any family who's gone through this knows what a tough time it is. You got to help these families out. I don't know. These are people making $26 an hour in some case that are going out on strike. Is he siding with the right side?
Well, thank God we still have political leaders in America like Illinois Governor Pat Quinn, who's drawn a line in the sand and saying that, somebody that works hard for a living, who works hard every day on a factory line, they should make a fair day's wage.
$26 an hour isn't a fair day's wage? That's a lot of money.
We don't need to be dragging down the wages of America down to the third world, which is what it seems like these corporations on Wall Street with their investors.
You got to answer the question. You don't think $26 an hour is a good wage?
I think that's a great middle-class wage. I think that's enough money to put food on the table, to pay a mortgage, to be able to afford a car, send your kids to a decent school, and also have a little bit of money left over to enjoy life, too. And isn't that the kind of jobs we want here in America? Don't we want a middle class that's built to last?
Yeah, so why are they out striking?
They're out striking because they have a CEO that, despite making record profits for their company, Caterpillar, he still wants to slash their wages and their benefits. And what I would ask that CEO is, who's the source of your success with that company? Is it the people on the line every day building your products? Because I think that's what makes Caterpillar successful.
Bradley, what do you think about that? He actually doesn't want to slash that wage. He wants to keep it static. But Bradley, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, first of all, Quinn, the governor of Illinois, has a horrible economic dilemma in his state. He needs every job he can get to stay there, especially workers who are getting a good prevailing wage. In addition, here's why he's a hypocrite. He takes on the public service unions and asks them to cut their benefits in order to balance his books, but somehow it's unfair when a private entity is trying to make it in very tough times, in a very tough environment, in a very tough state. So Governor Quinn wants to have it both ways. He's not going to get it. And you know what's going to happen is Caterpillar will go elsewhere, and all those thousands of jobs will be lost. And where are these people going to get work? In a state that has higher unemployment averages than the rest of the country.
Ryan, what do you think about that? Because Caterpillar does employ 23,560 people in the state, and whether or not you like the way they're doing it or what they're paying, they're threatening to leave, and that seems like that would be a real problem for those people.
I mean, the philosophy that you're talking about there and that the gentleman mentioned is the philosophy of outsourcing. I mean, you can find somebody to do these jobs for 10 cents an hour in China and India and in the third world. I mean, you can pay a 10-year-old kid somewhere else in the world to do this job, but I don't really think that's moral, and I don't think that's what we want to build our economy on. I think what we want to do is build an economy that's built to last, that pays a fair day's wage for a hard day's work. That's what every American wants. And we want to see a middle class that's growing instead of shrinking. And we want to see the words made in America again. But we want everybody to have enough money to put food on the table and to provide for their family.
I mean, again, Bradley, I would point back to that these people make, $26.37 an hour. Their tier 2 is $17.34 an hour. I mean, I think there's a lot of unemployed people out there who would like to have those jobs. Bradley, what do you think?
You bet. And you talk about outsourcing. Look, the CEO of Caterpillar is not saying we're going to take the jobs to Bangladesh. He's saying I'm going to take the jobs to maybe
Texas.
North Carolina or Texas, where the environment is much better and more business friendly, and you don't have thugs like the governor of Illinois trying to interfere with the freedom of contract between a private individual and his workers. The fact of the matter is, as you point out, they're getting paid very well in a very depressed economy, and in some instances they're lucky to have a job. And having said that,
getting paid? I mean, how much is the CEO of that company making? Because they made 70% more.
Well, he runs a multi-billion-dollar
They made 70% more than they made last year.
One at a time, guys. Go ahead, Ryan. You can finish your point.
He doesn't have to apologize.
Hang on. One at a time.
They made 70% more than they had in the previous year. Their profits are soaring. They're making record profits. Why aren't they sharing any of that success with the employees that make it possible every day on the line? Those guys work hard for a living.
Because of laws like Dodd-Frank.
Why don't they get a raise?
You can respond now.
Because laws of Dodd-Frank and oppressive regulation, which makes these companies now bank a lot of their money and create the kind of capital so there isn't any too big to fail anymore. But companies like Caterpillar and Deere and others are punished for the Wall Street debacle, which they had nothing to do with, yet they're paying the price in their business in order to compete. So it's people like Dodd and Frank who've cost American businesses jobs. and there's no profit sharing required when contracts have been written. So all of a sudden, when a company gets profitable, Democrats like to come in, and what do they like to do? Take money away from people. Well, you can do it running a government, I guess, for a while, but you shouldn't be doing it with business.
Ryan, you know, the CEO of that company would say that he is trying to manage this company to not become the auto industry, and he's trying to control benefits and health care costs before they turn into one of these other companies that needs a bailout. How would you respond to that real quick before we go?
I would say this has been a vastly successful company under his leadership. He's to be commended and rewarded for that. But the people that also are on the line every day, working hard for a living, making the products of that company, making that company successful, they deserve to be rewarded for their hard work too. We don't punish hard work in this country. No. We believe that a hard day's work deserves a fair day's wage. And if you're working hard and you're making that company successful, then by all means, that CEO deserves a bonus. But his employees deserve a bonus too.
Gentlemen, thank you for a lively and thoughtful debate. We'll have you both back soon. Have a great weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks for having us.
Take the federal government